I'm talking about how we are preparing for this season. What it is that we are doing that is going to help us to achieve everything that we are meant to achieve. But this morning, too, I'm starting at the beginning. At the very beginning. In fact, before the beginning. Before the beginning, before we had an earth. Because before we even had an earth, we were. We were. In 1 John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not put it out. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light so that all might believe through him. The true light, which enters everyone, was coming into the world. The hymn that we're talking about was the Christ. Not Jesus the man, but the Christ. The Christ that was created in the very, very beginning, before anything else was made. And so this morning, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the beginning of the season. We're talking about how we are embarking upon a journey that is our journey. It is our journey to find and to realize and to become aware of that Christ within us. We're on a journey of transformation. And this transformation is found in all of the great myths and all of the great stories. And Jesus came as an archetype of that great Christ that was in the very beginning. We were all that Christ in the beginning. And so these ancient stories provide templates for transformation which take us to the next step of human development. Once again, we are reenacting the archetype of God-human. Our fall program reminded us of our divine nature, and Christmas is doing the same thing as we experience the rebirth, not only in us, but on the planet as well. A time when the world and we are being quickened with the potential to begin to live more and more from Spirit. Letting Spirit take charge of our entire life. To be guided by a higher cause. So some of you may be thinking, as I have from time to time, you know, we've heard of all of these things are happening. Do you remember the harmonic convergence that took place years ago? And we said, well, you know what, nothing came of that. And we've heard, well, the world is going to end, and it didn't. We've heard, you know, everything's going to change, become love and light. We didn't see that happen. But I wonder, is that because nothing within us has changed and we just keep prodding along thinking only the things we detect with our senses as real? Or perhaps we have not been noticing. Perhaps we have changed more than we realize. Perhaps we have seen small changes in our lives where we're not reacting and acting in the same way as we used to. We might be noticing this, but kind of just not noticing it. And it's time, as James said this morning, to wake up. It's time to wake up, to begin to really see these things, to really begin to know that this is taking place in us. It's taking place in our lives right now. And there is an energy coming in, and there was an energy that came in during the harmonic conversion. And that energy was open to us to the extent that we were willing to accept it. And that's what we're about this morning, is beginning to look and accept that development that is taking place within us. It is a time when we are quickened, and the potential is there, but we must wake up and grab it. We must see it. The Christmas story is a rich symbol that touches us on more than a physical level of glitz and commercialism. The story is more than just a divine baby born 2,000 years ago. It touches us at an emotional and soul level, and often below our conscious awareness. This series is designed to help us participate in the Christmas story, in the birth of the Christ child, and to sense the archetypes that are associated with the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, as it also expresses in the depth within each one of us. If we are willing, we will relive the ancient story of the divine birth and see its connections with our life and with ourselves. It is very much who we are. The story begins with an angel of the Lord who appears to Mary and tells her of the impending birth. And we don't know much about Mary. We know she was a very young girl. We wouldn't even call her a young woman. Maybe in her age she was a young woman. But she was full of the Spirit of God. She was a young, innocent girl with a pure countenance and a total trust in God. She emanated godliness, and she represents the soul that magnifies the Lord in all that she does. She is the divine motherhood of love. And each of us have these same traits within us. We have these same things within us. No matter what we've said or done, our essence is pure. It cannot be otherwise. It cannot be smudged. It cannot be smirched. That's not a word. Well, you can't lose it. I'm telling you. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't lose this. You've got it. It's within you. It's in your DNA. It's a part of who you are. And so when we look at Mary and we see this little person who is so filled with the love of God, we know that we have that same capacity within us. And we too can feel that beauty and wonder within us. The narrative that follows is a most powerful Christmas story. Now, these are people like you and like me. And it was originally printed in a magazine that's no longer around. And the publisher has graciously given his permission to reprint this version of it. This is a first-person account of a mother about her family as they ate dinner on Christmas Eve day in a small restaurant many miles from their home. Nancy, the mother, relates. We were the only family with children in the restaurant. I sat Eric in a high chair and noticed everyone was quietly eating and talking. Suddenly, Eric squealed with glee and said, "Hi there!" He pounded his fat little baby hands on the high chair tray, and his eyes were wide with excitement, and his mouth was bared in a toothless grin. He wiggled and giggled with merriment, and I looked around and saw the source of his joy. It was a man in a ragged, tattered jacket, dirty, greasy, and worn. His pants were baggy with a zipper at half-mast, and his toes poked out of would-be shoes. His shirt was dirty, and his hair was uncombed and unwashed. His whiskers were too short to be called a beard, and his nose was so varicose it looked like a road map. Got the picture? We were too far from him to smell, but I was sure he smelled. His hands waved and flapped on loose wrists. "Hi there, baby. Hi there, big boy. I see you, Buster," the man said to Eric. My husband and I exchanged looks. What do we do? Eric continued to laugh and answered, Hi there." Everyone in the restaurant noticed and looked at us, and then at the man. The old geezer was creating a nuisance with my beautiful baby. Our meal came, and the man began shouting across the room, "Do you know patty cake? Do you know peekaboo? Hey, look, he knows peekaboo." Nobody thought the old man was cute. He was obviously drunk. My husband and I were embarrassed. We sat in silence, all except for Eric, who was running through his repertoire for the admiring Skid Row bum, who in turn reciprocated with his cute comments. We finally got through the meal and headed for the door. My husband went to pay the check and told me to meet him in the parking lot. The old man sat poised between me and the door. Lord, just let me get out of here before he speaks to me or Eric, I thought. As I drew closer to the man, I turned my back, trying to sidestep him and avoid any air he might be breathing. As I did, Eric leaned over my arm, reached with both arms in a baby's pick-me-up position, and before I could stop him, Eric had propelled himself from my arms into the man's. Suddenly, a very old, smelly man and a very young baby consummated their love relationship. Eric, in an act of total trust, love, and submission, laid his tiny head upon the man's ragged shoulder. The man's eyes closed, and I saw tears hover beneath his lashes. His aged hands, both full of grime, pain, and hard labor, so gently cradled my baby's bottom and stroked his back. No two beings have ever loved so deeply for so short a time. I felt awestruck. The old man rocked and cradled Eric in his arms for a moment, and then his eyes opened and set squarely on mine. He said in a firm, commanding voice, "You take care of this baby." Somehow I managed, "I will," from a throat that contained a stone. He pried Eric from his chest, unwillingly, longingly, as though he were in pain. I received my baby, and the man said, "God bless you, ma'am. You've given me my Christmas gift." I said nothing more than a muttered thanks. With Eric in my arms, I ran for the car. My husband was wondering why I was crying and holding Eric so tightly, why I was saying, my God, forgive me." I had just witnessed Christ's love, shown through the innocence of a tiny child who saw no dirt, who made no judgment, a child who saw a soul, and a mother who saw a suit of clothes. I was a religious person who was blind, holding a child who was not. The ragged old man unwittingly had reminded me, to enter the kingdom of God, we must become as little children. This is why we are starting at the beginning. This is why we are starting with the little child, with the Christ child. To remember once again and to take within our consciousness that knowing that everyone is a splendid soul if we could only see as a little child. So how do we realize our authentic, divine self as a child? How do we begin to live out of this beautiful place in consciousness? I believe that we go back to the Christmas story, first of all. And we look at creative visualization. Shakti Gawain wrote a book in 1978 that was a classic and still popular today. And what this creative visualization said was to direct your imagination consistently toward the thing you want, the good that you want in your life. And this is what we are called to do in this Christmas season. We are called to bring forth that Christ within us, to become aware of it once again as we were in the very beginning, before the world was. That's where we were. We all have that childlike quality within us, but do not always remember to use it. When we picture in our mind those things we desire and open to greater good that is always available to us, our life changes for the better, which in turn changes the world for the better. So listen to your intuition. Your intuition is going to tell you exactly what to do. The more we tune into our divine nature, nudging us, encouraging us, teaching us, the stronger our awareness becomes. The more our intuition speaks to us. Our awareness of the Christ within this season, along with the shifts taking place in race consciousness, is calling us higher and deeper, expanding our understanding and showing us our wholeness. It's right here. It's right now. We become receptive like Mary and magnify our divinity in the temple, our spiritual body temple. One of the things we are doing is we are spiritualizing our physical body as well. We can become like the little child Eric in our story and see the inner splendor of everyone we meet. We can remember our innocence as a little child and lead ourselves and humankind out of the darkness by the light of our spirit. Let your light shine. Have courage. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not put it out. God bless you.